Well, welcome everybody. I'm Jonathan Worsley. I'm dialing in from Canada from my cottage on the St. Lawrence, and absolutely delighted to have Guy Hutchinson, the CEO and president of Rotana, with me today. Welcome, Guy.
Well, welcome from Abu Dhabi, Jonathan. Looks fun in Canada, but thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was planning to do this podcast outside, but it's a little bit rainy today, a bit windy, so I thought best to stay inside and so everybody can hear us. Guy, I must say you are one of our greatest supporters. We love what you're doing, growing a Middle East brand, taking it global. What an exciting journey that you're on. And this year at FHS, 25th to the 27th of September, so excited. We're there for the first time. And also with you, there's a huge history there, isn't there, with Rotana? Just give us some background as to Rotana, Abu Dhabi, the family.
Yeah. Well, look, we're loving FHS, and it's brilliant to have it in Abu Dhabi this year. Abu Dhabi is the birthplace of Rotana, going back now 31 years with the Beach Rotana in Abu Dhabi, which was one of the founding and still is one of the leading hotels in Abu Dhabi. It's sort of the heart of the city and always has been and still is today. And that's the birthplace of the company. So we're delighted to have you with us in Abu Dhabi. And our story has been one of those, great stories of something that was born in Abu Dhabi, and through its attention to detail and through its focus on quality and its focus on customer and caring for colleagues, a concept that just grew organically and then had a little bit of effort put behind it, and grew out through Abu Dhabi, through Dubai, through the UAE, through the Middle East, through Africa, now into Europe. So to see that circle expanding it's just been a phenomenal story from our two founders, Shayan Nasr on the way and Salim Alzir, who established the first Rotana 30 years ago. So to have FHS back and to celebrate it this year, we're going to host a reception in Saadiyat, which is our latest flagship in Abu Dhabi, and we're just looking forward to showing that to the investors.
That's fantastic. And the reception is at the Saadiyat Rotana Resort and Villa at the Nasma Beachfront Bar. Tell us a little bit about that property and why you're taking us to the beachfront.
Saadiyat as a destination, I think, is just one of the absolutely most jaw-dropping, phenomenal resort districts in the Middle East today. It's phenomenally beautiful, natural in terms of how it's protected. It's actually a turtle nesting ground. You still see wild dolphins in the mornings in the winter. It's just one of these serene, just beautiful, naturally vested resort destinations, and it's been beautifully and tastefully developed. And I think it's just emerging as just such a phenomenal destination for the UAE. And we're delighted to have the FHS community with us for an evening there. I think they're going to experience the beauty of the island, and in a resort property in Saadiyat Rotana Resort and Villas that we are immensely proud of, and just it's going to really showcase the face of Rotana and how that's grown in the UAE.
Guy, we're really excited about joining you at the reception on the Monday night. But tell us what you're doing with that property and other properties in terms of the innovation side, in terms of sustainability. I know this is something we talk about a lot, but you seem to take a real lead in this. I had you as my judge for the Startup Den in Saudi. You're speaking on some great sessions at FHS in September. But what is it? How is it that you are innovating at the moment? And because it's a challenge, isn't it? It's not easy when you're dealing with real estate as well. When you've built the hotel, or it's an old hotel, what is it? Can you give us some examples of things that you're doing as a company right now to innovate and to showcase sustainability?
I think economic viability. And I think that is probably one of the factors that's changed the most around sustainability space is, there was a myth, or perhaps it was even true at some point. There was this construct that was out there that, sustainability initiatives or similar were initiatives that were, great to have and important and culturally important, but there was a price tag attached and there was a cost attached to implementing those initiatives in your business and hospitality business. Honestly, I think that construct is a thing of the past, and I think it's something which is, for us in the last 3-4 years, being far less of an issue, and it's something that going forward is really not a significant obstacle. I think there are so many, the spaces move so quickly, and there's so many solutions there and that you're able to tap into and work with, that really that sort of cost factor or investment factor is just less and less of an issue. So we were one of the first brands in the region to completely eliminate single-use plastics. We did that in 2019, and there's zero impact on operating cost. But the most positive thing is you've seen this industry grow around hospitality, which is really supported by government and infrastructure, where they're providing scale, and when that scale comes in a very measured, strategic way, then that enables you to adopt into your business in a good way. So the encouragement of agriculture. So we've seen local agriculture. So we were able to switch, in the UAE, for example, and growing now into Saudi Arabia, all of our salmon, sea bream, chicken, fresh on table as one aggregator. But there are other, or even the traditional suppliers that were relying 100% on import in the past are now being competitive and building out their own local, locally farmed solutions. So as that industry is growing and it gets larger, then it just becomes the way that you do business, which for us is the most important benchmark to achieve, particularly when you're talking about daily supplies and how you run the business on a day-to-day business. The more that you capture that is not in specials, not in promotions, not in initiatives, but just the fundamentals of how you operate and you buy and you procure and how your supply chain is structured for the business today. That is what is changing, where now probably I'd say 30 to 35%, maybe more of our supply chain when it comes to fruit, vegetables, perishables, receivables, all of these kind of paper items, 30 to 40% or more and growing is all going towards sustainable materials, and it's very accessible. And the more that industry embraces that, the more fundamental and easy it becomes.
And when you've got the government behind you like that as well, when you've got food security at 15% in the UAE, they want to double it to 30%. You're already there as a company, which is fantastic. And it's all about the data as well. Having that data to be able to measure what you're doing.
We've been working with food waste management technology since 2016, 2017. We reduced our food waste in 2017 by 41%. And we've been building on it from there. So, and now you're seeing with NEMA, particularly in the UAE, that we're working with in terms of a group-wide collaboration to test initiatives and help them pilot and roll out schemes. It's only going to accelerate. The biggest, I think, probably the biggest barrier in the past has been also those design and construction standards, what you alluded to with buildings which might be 15 years old or 20 years old, and have technologies which are not current. But there's two ways to address this from our perspective. One is we've already rewritten all of our design and construction standards. So anything that we're working on or collaborating on anywhere in the region, Middle East, Africa, anywhere we're working on, we're already integrating sustainability into our design and construction standards, and we're giving a platform to developers, owners, investors to already build something the right way, incorporating food waste, water management, all of these things, energy management, which are critical to having a sustainable building. And then, but equally now, because it's become such a significant issue. There are a lot of very skilled technology-driven partners out there who are coming to the table with very structured, very manageable investment programs for retrofitting or adjusting buildings that may be 10 or 15 years old, and making it much more affordable to do that. So, I think this is something that we're very excited that from how you structure operating standards and day-to-day operations of hotels, and then how you manage the physical capabilities of a building, whether it's a new build or an existing building. Those solutions are just becoming prevalent, and the more prevalent and the more present they are, the more accessible they are. And now it's just a matter of planning, strategy, and execution. There's no longer really a large cost barrier to getting this done. It just comes down to focus and planning and implementation.
Good for you. And I assume that the philosophy of the company is all wrapped around this as well. So it makes it exciting for the teams and the staff as well to be looking, to be forward thinking, to be innovators, and to you as a company to be incubating these new ideas.
Yeah, sustainability has to be the lens at which you look at everything. I think companies that are not looking at it that way will fall behind.
Yeah, exactly. Guy, one of the things you said on a podcast, I think it was in 2020, probably the latter part of 2020 or early 2021, was two things you said. We talked about sustainability, but you also talked about collaboration within the industry. And you said you hoped that this collaboration would continue. Do you see that as the market has rebounded enormously? Do you still see the industry collaborating as you had hoped it would?
I'm absolutely delighted to tell you that not only is it continued, it's got stronger. And I think we've seen that integration just accelerate the region. This region across the board is right at the top of the industry globally, and it's being driven fundamentally by this level of collaboration, which is in some spheres was always there, but actually is accelerating. And in some spaces, like Saudi Arabia, where it wasn't as strong in the past, and we're now seeing it coming up to just a phenomenal level. There is a focus on hospitality and tourism in this region, in between industry, government, infrastructure, like nowhere else in the world, I think. And we're just seeing, across the board, the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, we're seeing this region building behind that. And that's why the industry is just going from strength to strength right across the region, because this level of collaboration across multiple jurisdictions is just escalated.
Yeah, and it's good to see, and it's other countries in Europe could learn from what's happening in the Middle East. That's for sure. Speaking about Europe, how exciting for you to be launching now in London. Tell us a little bit about that, because I can't wait to be at your opening party.
Well, we're very excited about the project in London. Putting a Rotana flag in a market like this is for us just it's such an exciting benchmark, and it's going to be something that will go down in the history of the company. That first brand opening in London is something we're very excited about. It's a little bit lateral. I think people sometimes expect a trophy opening, but we're a little bit more practical, and we love projects that get us excited and we understand are going to be commercially extremely successful. So London, for one of the most mature hotel markets in the world, is really underserved with hotel apartments, or branded hotel apartments. And we have a very, very smart development partner who's launching multiple sites under the Centro brand, which is our sort of mid-market lifestyle brand, but in an apartment version. So the first two sites will open next year in March, and probably then in October, November. There'll be about 300 keys of Centro apartments. First one in New Malden, second one in Kingston, around the outskirts of London. And there's about another 8 to 10 sites and about another 1,000 keys to come. So it's very, very exciting development for us.
That's really good. And you know, the obvious question is, your investors behind that you would think are Middle East, but that's not necessarily the case here, is it?
No, it's a lovely story, you know, and I think, you know, these are the stories which give us so much motivation around what we do and how we do it. You know, the investor who's leading this project is London-based, but spent a lot of time in the Middle East. Was a regular guest in our hotels. You know, fell in love with the team, fell in love with the properties, fell in love with the brand, and went out into the world as our ambassador, and is now developing projects for us in a critical market like London. So it's a really great story, and for the entire team, it's a great endorsement of, you know, what they do every day and how that leads to relationship and business.
You know, exactly. And so heading back to the Middle East then, we know you've got, you're very active in Saudi, of course. I think around 7 hotels that are opened and a big pipeline ahead of you. Is that right?
We're actually around 9 open, and the pipeline's about 15 at the moment.
And Egypt, tell me about Egypt, because it's not a market yet. We have an investment conference. Where is that market going at the moment? Because it seems to be on everybody's radar at the moment.
Yeah. You know, I think as a sort of a single country market, outside of Saudi Arabia, Egypt is probably one of the fastest growing markets for us. And I think, you know, when you look at hospitality and you look at construction rate, you know, it's a long time since I've seen construction on the scale that I've seen passing through Egypt recently. I mean, it's really, really phenomenal. So there's a real re-energizing around hospitality, and there's some just phenomenal hospitality assets being built across Egypt. Cairo is unrecognizable. New Cairo is amazing. You know, new admin capital is coming up. You know, there is so much happening all across Egypt. It's a very exciting market. The North Coast, which is just beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful spaces I've seen in a long time. You know, we have now a number of openings, and the pipeline in Egypt is growing fast. So the first will be the North Coast, where we will open next year in April, followed by New Cairo. We have a big property with 400 keys opening in New Cairo. We have a great resort coming on the pyramids, 5-star resort coming on the pyramids. We have a beautiful 5-star coming in Luxor. You know, so Egypt is just booming, and we're fielding a lot of development activity in that space right now.
Well, we've got the tourism minister attending. He just confirmed today, actually, that he's going to be participating in FHS in September. So that's good. Is that business primarily? I would think there's a lot of inward demand as well from the corporate market, from the Egyptians themselves, but then you have that leisure market for the internationals.
This, you know, I mean, it's a country with such a strong domestic population. You know, a market like the North Coast is 100% domestic. You know, with some of the highest RevPARs, you know, in the region across the summer. So it's a market that has a lot of dimension to it. There's a very strong domestic market. There's a very strong corporate influx. There's international travel and tourism. You know, and there's a very strong, you know, which is benefiting us, to be honest. There's a very strong relationship between Egypt and the UAE in particular, where, you know, and that's something which is generating a good traction for Rotana.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, listen, we'll make sure we line up a meeting for you with the minister himself, given your activity in Egypt. So we'll definitely do that. So tell me about just going back to Abu Dhabi, FHS in a few weeks' time. What are the things that you get out of attending FHS, and how do you? I mean, if you were to speak to some of your junior people on the team that are going to the event for the first time, how do you maximize the benefit of attending such an event?
We do a number of things. You know, I think we have a good idea of the quality of the audience that's going to be present. So for me, the success of an event like FHS has a lot to do with the amount of forward planning that you do. So particularly with the teams, we give them focus, structure, almost targets, and I'm reviewing their diaries for FHS in advance, because the more work you pre-plan, or the more effort you put into pre-planning an event like FHS, the better return you get from it. If you turn up and just walk through and have coffee, yes, there's impact and you meet lots of people, but you're missing that opportunity of really capitalizing on who is present and who is there, and the opportunities you've got to either maintain dialogues or meet new people or start dialogues for the first time. So with everybody that we schedule to attend, well in advance, almost 2 months out, we're looking at diaries, we're looking at what a point, making sure that everybody that goes there, they've got a fixed structure of meetings in place and we can see what they're going to be doing. That for me is really important. And that's the best way to get the value out of the content of FHS. I think that pre-planning piece is absolutely critical. But then giving yourself some flexibility, because one of the things that always interests me about FHS, you never know 100% who's going to be there. And, you get those walk-ins from time to time that you weren't expecting or weren't attending. And then you get a good opportunity to be able to sit and network with some of those people as well. So, it's 80%, probably 70 to 80% pre-planning and effort that you put into it. And then maybe 15, 20% of, what you give yourself the space to manage that environment while you're there.
Interesting. So that's good to hear. Good to hear you're so well organized for the event. We've got you on the Sustainable Hospitality Challenge. I mean, this is super exciting too. I mean, I'm so pleased to have you as one of the judges. It's awesome what the Paul Grebe and Stella Vandentour have done with that particular challenge. And this year, aligning them with engineering schools as well, the hotel schools with engineering schools, 40 universities around the world. And now we have the final 5 who are competing. And I gather that these, I need to do a bit more research myself on some of these shortlisted finalists, but I think they're extraordinary from what I've initially seen.
It's 2 birds with 1 stone, right? It's amazing. You get to hit key agenda points like sustainability and talent development in one space. We love forums like this. It's really
good. Yeah, it's great to have you on board. Well, listen, I'm not going to take any more of your time, Guy, because you're busy with all these openings and then traveling here and there. Actually, one question I was going to ask you is, how the hell do you keep in shape with all this travel that you're doing constantly?
I'm married to my personal trainer. So I have a wife who's big into events business, but very focused on health and wellness and well-being. And there's a point in my life where I went, listen, if you don't make it a priority now, you never will. So I structure my wellness and activity the same way that I structure my work life. That way it gets done.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Well, that helps, doesn't it? Having a member of the family involved. Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, Guy, thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time in September. And as always, thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement. And
we're super excited. And I convinced the Aimbridge guys to come this year. Hopefully, they're bringing you a decent delegation. I met Mike Dietrich in the US and convinced him that he's silly if he doesn't come to this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Guy. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.
Pleasure.